Hey, hey, sister. Welcome to the Period Whisperer podcast. I'm your host, Bria Gad, the Period Whisperer. And remember, this episode, this whole podcast is really all about helping you go from feeling frustrated or stuck in these perimenopause years, which is 35 to 55 or 35 until you actually achieve menopause and even beyond. Because I want to make something really, really clear. Whether you have a regular period, an irregular period, or no period, if you are still struggling with symptoms like weight gain that shouldn't be happening, or stuck weight, or any of those real PMS symptoms that we're familiar with, like really tender breasts, or a lot of cramping, or mood swings, or impatience, or cravings, whether you're not able to sleep really well at night, you're waking up feeling really tired, or you can't get to sleep very well, whether you are having like skin issues all of a sudden and you're like, what's happening here? Why do I look like I'm aging overnight? I remember those feelings so well myself. Maybe you're having hot flashes or night sweats. If you are suffering, no, it's not normal. That's really important that you understand. It's not normal. Yes, we can do something about it. And before we go running off to try to seek help from like medicine specifically, we have to do that underlying work first. Because a lot of the times we can actually heal a lot of this stuff before we take anything. It doesn't mean that those things won't work or those things are bad. I'm just saying that before we dive into Western medicine, it's always really important to do that underlying work first, because 9 times out of 10, we can heal this for you. You can do it all on your own. So no matter where you're at in that, in this cycle, whatever phase of perimenopause you are in, we first want to figure out, okay, well, what, healing phase do you need to be in? Like, where are your symptoms at? But, I always start this podcast, or all the episodes, with how are you feeling in your body? And if you are feeling like you're not suffering, but you're just kind of meh, where you're like starting to gain a bit of weight and I don't really know why, it doesn't make any sense. Maybe you're not getting any results from your workouts. Like maybe you're putting in the effort and you're not seeing that difference. Maybe you're just noticing your health slide a little, or maybe you're just starting to you just kind of feel like, gosh, I just feel a little lackluster, right? Because there are a lot of the times, not all women are majorly suffering, or if you're just like really starting to be impacted by this shift. I did an Instagram post recently about our health is really like the three little pigs, right? That story of the three little pigs, where one built their house out of straw, one out of sticks, and one out of bricks. And obviously, we know building out of bricks takes longer, takes more effort. But the moral of that story is when you build a strong foundation, when you take the time, that your house will withhold. And it's a really, I think, poignant metaphor for us in perimenopause. Depending on how you have built the foundations of your health will really determine whether, like, when the big bad wolf of this hormonal shift starts to descend upon you and huff and puff at you, is your house going to crumble? Are your hormones going to, is your health going to crumble? Is it going to start to suffer like the sticks, or is it going to hold strong? And everything I want to teach you here in the Period Whisper podcast is how to make sure you're building your health out of bricks. And you'll know whether, again, if you're just starting to feel a little like off kilter, likely you are just either in the beginning phases or you built your house out of sticks. So if you are in complete chaos like I was, and listen, before this, I spent 12 years building a business as a personal trainer and online fitness and nutrition coach. I was in really good shape. I thought I had all of these answers, but at 37, like, perimenopause came and huffed and puffed and blew my house down. My foundations were not solid for two main reasons. One, I had no idea anything about my hormones, about my period. Like, I knew when it was roughly going to come because I tracked it, but I didn't know anything about the phases, about how to work with it, that I was different than men that way. Like, obviously we know we're different than men, but I didn't know that women aren't ever being taught that we fully operate metabolically, and physiologically different than men. So when I understood those things, that was when I was able to begin to rebuild the foundations of my health, so that I have a brick house. Now, that being said, even the brickiest of homes, even the strongest foundations can still get knocked around a little while when, because of life, right? Whether it's a really busy season at work, whether maybe there's something stressful going on in your family or with your kids or your parents or your partner, things that are completely unforeseen for us. Whatever, maybe you just, it's the holiday season, it's your birthday week and it turns into a birthday month. Like maybe you just go off the rails a little bit with some of your healthier habits, and some of these symptoms start to creep back in again, right? So for me, I can really tell now when when I need to kind of swing that pendulum back, to kind of tighten up the pieces that I've let be loose, because I'll start to wake up in the night. I'll start to have night sweats again. I'll feel my anxiety raise a little. I'll have some maybe bloating and digestive issues. Maybe my period will get a bit wonky. Those are real clear indicators for me, now that I've healed my hormones, of the fact that I need to do, a tune-up. And so I wanted to bring this episode in for those of you who are, have either healed your hormones, or you're not feeling super frustrated, or again, doesn't really matter where you're at, whether you're bleeding, irregular bleeding, or not bleeding. If you are noticing these symptoms, or you're noticing them creep back, I wanted to address that here today for you, because not everyone is suffering in major hormonal chaos. They just want to learn more, or they just are noticing that shift. And it still means we need to pay attention. We need to focus. And one of the most powerful ways that I have been able to do that is by planning for my health. We are amazing at planning for our career, right? Whether you run a business or whether you work for someone else or work in corporate, we plan. We know how our day's going to go. We have to-do lists. We know when it's going to be a busier season for us. We know when we're going to push for goals. Like, we plan a lot of other things. We plan our kids' lives, right? Our social activities. And yet our health isn't being planned. And I was one of these in the same situation, where I wasn't actually properly planning my year of health. And being the CEO of your body, a CEO is a real strategy person. Their role is to look at the macro, look at the year ahead, and forecast what's coming up. So one of the most powerful things I do every year, and then I revisit kind of every quarter in my year, is, what is my year looking like this year? Like, maybe I'm pretty clear on some goals I'm going to push for. I always am aware of the fact that my kids have summer vacation in June and July. So that's going to change some things for me. Maybe, you have holidays that you're going to plan. So I like to take a look at my year. And this is one of the most powerful things that has kept me feeling better, looking better, being leaner than I ever have, without exhausting myself in burnout, just by looking at my year and planning. So I like to take a look at my year and figure out those kind of key milestones that I know are going to happen in my life. And then I plan around those in this way. I look for 2 to 4 months of the year where I swing my pendulum back to a place and have a really focused 4-week pocket, where I am just prioritizing my health above other things. So of course, I like to do this when I'm not super busy and demanding in a work month, when I'm not, managing kids full time at home because they're home for summer holidays, when I'm not going on vacation, right? A lot of the times women say to me, like, well, I really want to join your challenge. I really want to join Midlife Mojo, but I'm going on vacation. And although I always think that it's worthy of pushing ourselves during a time when we're on holiday or when life is busy, if we plan ahead of time, then it's really not a big deal that we have a vacation, because we've already been on top of it, right? So for me, some of the most common months that I like to really plan this is January. Obviously, we know that's a really great month. I like to really just enjoy my December, really enjoy the holiday season with my family. I also really like to do this again in May. I find May to be like, it's a changing season month. And then I definitely like to do it in either September or November. Because again, it's just this time where I know I'm not going to be consumed with business goals. I know I'm not going to be consumed with work goals. And this is what works for me. So like, for example, if you're an accountant or you work in the tax, you're not going to schedule one of these during tax season. You probably want to do it the month before. It's also a really powerful thing to do the month before you need to be in peak performance, right? Before things are going to get demanding for you. But when you do this, when you look at your year, and I encourage you to do it now, don't do it in January. January, we're already consumed and have FOMO by all the things we could be doing. Now in like October, November is a really great time to look at the year ahead and think, okay, when are my key like health priority months? And you really only need, again, 2 to 4 a year, depending on you. Actually, I think I typically end up liking 3. 3 really works well for me. But what I do when I plan this ahead of time, or when I'm having this time in life where I'm starting to feel a little bit like, oh boy, I'm waking up again, starting to have these night sweats and hot flashes, or my digestion's off, or oh, that was a really rough period. Maybe it was super heavy or it was late. Again, these are whispers of your body. This is why this is called the Period Whisperer podcast, to teach you how to listen to the whispers before they turn into screams, right? When we start to wake up or stop sleeping a little while, then we can pay attention to what our body is saying to us and kind of course correct, right? Before things ever get really, really, really challenging. We all know that when things get really bad, often that is the final straw that motivates people to change. But gosh, it's so much harder to change when you're in the deep, dark pits. If you're just on top of that change, if you're in this maintenance piece, if you're like, ooh, just not feeling great, need to swing that pendulum, and you just have these pillars of health months built into your year already, then you're already ahead of the game. And the other reason I really love doing is that you can share that with your partner or the important people in your life. So another real challenge that I know people have when it comes to making health changes or prioritizing their health is that their partner's not on board, right? It's really challenging to, make healthy food choices when your partner's on the couch eating like chips and drinking a beer next to you, right? We all know this. So when you get on top of it and you almost like get buy-in from your partner, they can look forward to that too. So we're already kind of planned and prepared to be on the same page. We can even talk to our kids about it, right? Prioritizing our health is something we want to teach them too. So take a look at your year. Make sure you're including the people who matter to you most in it. Now, if they're not on board, you should still do it anyway. There was a study I read once about how it can take an average of 6 years of one partner making healthy decisions before the other one is influenced enough to make a change. That's an average. So that means some people never get there and some people get on board quickly, of course. But no matter what, whether they're getting on board or not, we still need to do it. We still need to be the example, right? We want to model for people, not just martyr in our life. So the first step, as I was saying, is I take a look at my year. I do it now. So I want you to take the time. This is your action step out of this podcast, is take a look at your 2024 year and just write down kind of the key things that are demanding times for you. Whether that's when your kids are going to be home for holiday or summer, when you're going on a family vacation, whether it's going to be a busy season for work, or maybe your partner has a busy season for work, so it means more is going to fall on you during that time. Whatever it is, get aware of what those things are, and then pick 2 to 4 months where you're going to prioritize, where you're going to invest time, maybe some money on something that is for you in that time. Because here's the thing, we sometimes feel weird about spending money on ourselves as women when it comes to our health. I think it's because we're scared of failing and wasting that money. But when we invest money, we show up, right? Like that's a real energetic transaction of, like, I know when I invest in something, when I invest in, a program that's going to help me advance my business, advance my knowledge, I don't want that money to go to waste. Go to waste. So I always follow through. I push myself further in that time. So those are the months where and then you can also plan the money that you're going to spend during that time. So you're planning your year for your health so that you have breaks, right? So that we don't have to be so focused on our health for some of it. But so also we can plan the money that we're going to invest in that we can plan the time that we're going to invest in that and make sure it's quality time. Because when we invest in ourselves, in our body, in our health, we get way more back, right? I know you. I know that if you're not feeling amazing in your body, you're thinking about it. It's keeping you up at night. You're feeling it in the day when you get out of the shower, when you pass the mirror, when you put on your clothes in the closet, and it takes extra long because nothing feels good. When you don't feel good in your body, it consumes your brain. And that is an opportunity cost, right? That costs us time and money and life and presence that we don't want. Healing your hormones is not a complicated thing, but it does require time and time investment and sometimes money investment so that you can learn how to do it, right? And actually follow through on those pieces. So we know how to plan for our health so that we feel great. We want to course correct by picking those months and leaning in. So for me, what it looks like when I'm trying to course correct, when I'm starting to feel those things creep back in, or I'm just not feeling amazing, and I know I should feel better, that's when I do a course correct month. That's when I, lean into one of those months. And when I've planned them, it doesn't often surprise me. So I'm usually pretty on top of these things. I don't get back into those suffering pockets because I've planned, but I course correct by taking 30 days, 1 month to really, pull out the inflammatory foods in my life, really prioritize my sleep, really have focused movement that is designed to support my hormones, support my health, and not tax it during those times, and really focus on like the pleasure and stress reduction that I need. Those are our 4 pillars of health. So that's what I do. And this is why I created the Perimenopause Posse, and why I do challenges inside of it 2 to 3 times a year. So for my Posse members who are already in there, you know that 2 to 3 times a year, we do a challenge when we really swing that pendulum. And that's all we need. It doesn't need to be forever. Listen, I thoroughly enjoy wine with many of my dinners. I love to have cake and dessert. I had the most amazing cheesecake the other day. And I like to sometimes push the boundaries in how much I'm working, or how much I'm working out, or how much I'm not doing things, right? So I like to be able to have the freedom and autonomy and flexibility. And I get to have that when I have swung this pendulum, when I've focused in for a month, 2 to 4 times a year. So we take this time to course correct by committing to these months. And then once you're done those months, the way to support your hormones to stay balanced and feel awesome long-term is to understand the foundations of syncing with your cycle, right? Understanding the 4 aspects of your hormone rhythm. Again, whether you bleed or not. So I want you guys to listen up for those of you who don't have regular periods, because a lot of times I get messages from you guys who say, well, I'm postmenopausal, or I don't get a period anymore, or I've had a hysterectomy, does it even matter? Yeah, it matters, because you're listening to me because you're suffering somehow, and you're suffering because of your hormones, which means you still have them and they're still like rhythmically moving in a cycle. And we want to work with that cycle. So when you understand your, 4 phases of your cycle as a woman, and you learn how to eat, move, love, work within those phases, then you start to unlock this really powerful energy within you, because you're not working against your flow, right? I really like to think about it like a lazy river. You get on the lazy river and you hop on your tube, and it's effortless, right? It just kind of goes really nicely with the current. But if you're constantly walking against that flow, if you get on your tube and you just go against the lazy river, or you're going like sideways or diagonal against it, you're kind of getting thrown around, and you might be able to handle it for a little while, but it gets pretty tiring going up the down escalator, doesn't it? It's exhausting your energy on another level. And when we're in this phase of transition, this hormone transition, right? It's like puberty, it's like perimenopause. It's an added workload to our body. So when you're not working with your rhythm, you're working against it, and it's exhausting you in a time where you're already struggling to have the energy supply that you need, because there's a greater demand on your body. I hope this is making sense, because it's such an important piece. So once you have swung that pendulum back, once you've had your focused month, then you can start to understand how to go with your flow. And that is a really powerful piece, because it actually doesn't take a lot more work. It's actually pretty simple stuff. But we've never been taught it. And so once you learn how to do this, then you can start to put that into place. And then if you follow this plan, if you make your plan right now, if you're not majorly suffering, remember, if you're majorly suffering, we're going to need a focused 3 months to get you back on track. So if you're majorly suffering, I really want to encourage you to get on the wait list for Midlife Mojo. We're in it right now. The women who started in this, we're halfway through it, who started 6 weeks ago with me are having amazing results. They're feeling incredible. They're noticing a difference. They're being consistent, which is a lot of the issue for so many of us. And they're learning so much. Their pants are fitting better. They're sleeping better. They have more energy than they ever did. Like, the positive responses from these women are incredible. I'm going to have some of them on the podcast, so stay tuned for that. We will start that again in January. So if you're suffering, I want you to go to my website, get on that wait list so you're the first to know of when spots open for that. But if you are someone who needs to swing that pendulum, that needs that focused month, and you want that understanding of how to go with your flow, it is November. It's the very end of October right now, at the time of this recording coming out. And the first week of November is the prep week for our challenge starting November 6th inside the Perimenopause Posse. We do a 4-week challenge to swing that pendulum, everything that is exactly what I do. And this is why I created this, because this is what I do and it works. It works for my body. It's worked for hundreds of women that I've coached. It's a focused month on your health for the month of November. Before, we all know what happens in December, right? We're really busy Christmas shopping, end of year goals, Christmas concerts for kids, all the holiday parties. No one wants to focus in December. So now is this month to focus, and we swing that health pendulum. And at the end of the month, you get access to the Go With Your Flow course, which is a brand new course that I've created to teach you exactly how to sync with your cycle, so that we can go month after month, making sure that we are working with the rhythm and really unlocking that energy. I'm about to turn 42, and I have more energy than I did in my 20s. I have a leaner, fitter, healthier body that I can hear her whispers than I ever before in my life. And honestly, I don't work out that much. Like, at max, I work out 20 to 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, max. And I walk. So it's not a huge, in fact, this whole week I've only done yoga, and next week I will only do yoga too as I head into my menstrual week. These are things you get to learn where you don't have to push yourself. And then you can make sure your body is in a space when you're going with your flow, then your body has a solid foundation, right? You're becoming that pig who's setting the brick foundation of your house, so that should you want to do something like run a marathon or run an Ironman or do a major trip or travel or do a weightlifting program and get some abs, if that's something you really want, your body is primed and ready to get it, right? We cannot put on muscle when we're in hormonal chaos and we're not working very well with our rhythm. It's always going to be harder. So we want to make sure this is really easy for us. I want to invite you. So depending on where you're at right now, here is my real shameless pitch for you, because I do this because I learned the hard way. And you guys, sisters, I have been in the wellness industry. Like, I get paid to help people feel better. So it is easier for me to prioritize my health, I think, because if I don't prioritize my health, then no one's going to want to work with me anyway, right? Like, what, who wants to learn from someone who's unhealthy? Who wants to learn how to be healthy from someone who's unhealthy? It took me 4 years to figure this stuff out. I don't want it to take that long for you. So I want to make this really, really clear. If you're in major hormonal chaos, if you're really suffering, I want you to get on the Midlife Mojo waitlist. I want you to message me directly, and we will have a free hormone assessment to see what the next best step is for you. But if you're feeling meh, or like you just need that month of focus and how to understand how to work with that cycle, if you know you should feel better than you do, or you're not getting results from your fitness and you're putting in that effort, I want you to join us for the November challenge inside the Posse, and then get the Go With Your Flow course. Every month that you're in the POSSE after that, you're going to get a month of phase-based workouts, you're going to get a month of phase-based nutrition, and you're going to get a live special training with a Q&A with me. So if you have questions, you'll get them answered live on a call. And this is something I don't do very often. I really only work with a few one-on-one clients at a time. The MIDLIFE MOJO group, we get in a live call every single week for live training, but that is all the time I have for live work. And we all know that live one-on-one is much more impactful, right? You can get your unique questions answered. So sister, I want to know, here's your action plan. Make your monthly, take a look at your year and figure out when your months are going to be, and make a decision right now. Ask yourself, am I in hormonal chaos? Like, am I thinking about how crummy I feel in my body more than about 15% of my day? Or is it just starting to creep in? Because if you're thinking about it more than 10 to 15% a day, you're in hormonal chaos. You are. And it's time to reach out. Get on the MOJO waitlist. Reach out to me directly. I'll make sure these links are in the show notes so that you don't have to feel that way, because you're wasting your life. I was wasting my life feeling like junk, and I just couldn't have it. We have this one wild and precious life, and I don't want to spend it feeling like crap in my body. I don't. And I know you don't either. Women are magic. We have so much that we get to accomplish or appreciate, or the richness that life gives us. And if we're thinking about how crummy we feel, or we're feeling crummy and it's sucking our energy, we're not doing the things that we want to do in this world, are we? We're not able to love our kids as deeply or as wholly or be as present with them. We're not able to accomplish all the things we want and to really fulfill our dreams. We're not able to have as intimate as a relationship with our partners because we're too consumed thinking about our bodies. So now is that time. Okay, one more time for you. Ready? If you are thinking of your body more than 10 to 15% a day or feeling crummy in it, I want you to reach out and let's have a one-on-one call and get on that MIDLIFE MOJO waitlist. If you are just starting to feel mad, not getting results, like feeling like you should feel better, I want you to get in the POSSE challenge now. Doors close in 2 days. So get in, let's get you back on track so you're feeling wicked all the way through the holidays and New Year's, and teach you what you need to know on how to unlock the power of being a woman. Always, but definitely in perimenopause and beyond. Okay, sisters, go out, be more in your life and not just less on a scale. And we'll catch you in the next episode.